Pokemon! We all love it, and we all have very many people to thank for it, but perhaps none quite as legendary as the man himself, Junichi Masuda. For the uninitiated, gather around, for perhaps you've never quite encountered a man's soul quite as precious as this one in the gaming industry. Or you can just see how this homage links to horrific war events if you're into that too. Having been with Game Freak since its inception in 1989, Junichi worked as the company's main composer for installments as early as Pokémon Red and Blue and Gold and Silver. Junichi rose to prominence as the company's main director, starting with the production of Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, and continued to serve as the company's director and part-time composer for other big hits such as Pokémon Diamond and Pearl, Black and White, and X and Y. It's safe to say this real sweetheart of a man is responsible for much of the unmatched magic that the Pokémon company has been creating and has been adored for still to this very day. Today, as of this recording in 2024, Junichi has not made significant press appearance since around the time predating COVID-19, and some of his latest on-camera presence over 5 years ago involved some more controversial changes the Pokémon company will be making going forward with the series. Yeah, this infuriated a lot of unhealthy people on the internet. Whether it be the backlash for this big decision or from having shifted reign over to Shigeru Omori in lieu of a new position at the Pokémon company, Junichi departed from being one of the main public figureheads for Game Freak and the Pokémon franchise itself. And his legacy ended partially on a note of complaint and corporate politics. Still, for many, Junichi is remembered as a lovable man who crafted many of our child and adulthoods. For others, memed into oblivion. But there still remains much to be unveiled about this charming and interesting human being from behind the scenes. Hidden Power of Masuda is a lesser known and talked about column that Junichi began creating back in 2004. Early in its production, Junichi detailed interesting posts involving music, design philosophy, game secrets, shower thoughts, and game innovation. Junichi, I got all this grime in my poffins! All these examples give unique insight inside of the mind of one of Pokemon's most successful creators and composers. But perhaps the biggest running trend that I identified between all these posts made between 2004 and 2015 was this: Junichi's big desire for a more peaceful and better world. On August 6, 2004, Junichi writes, 59 years ago today, the first US atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. Let's take a moment of reflection. We should try our best not to repeat that awful act. War is wrong. It's here that we first see Junichi's seemingly random mention of a Japanese tragedy that took place during World War II during the very early days of his blog. In the same post, he continues to write, "We at Game Freak believe that everyone on Earth can communicate with each other, and with that in mind, we created such words as Pokemon, Pikachu, Groudon, Jirachi that are common all over the world. Pokemon that appear in Pokemon movies are the same all over the world. You go overseas, you say the words like Lugia or Pikachu, and people will turn their face and greet you. Whether you're a kid or a grown-up, let's make friends with people from all over the world. Ciao." It will continue to become more clear how much Junichi values a world of harmony instead of one of strife. Preceding the release of Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green in North America, Junichi clarifies that Pokemon at its core is a peaceful world. The titles of these games help symbolize this idea. Having a leaf symbolizes the concept of peace, not immediately clash with fire in Pokemon Fire Red, as opposed to having Fire Red and Pokemon Water Blue together. Another big theme that comes across these blog posts is Junichi's desire to build a stronger sense of community in the gaming industry, such as through in-person gaming events between staff and patrons, and just as seen inside of the Pokemon game experience itself. In 2005, Junichi ponders on the history of gaming and how it might evolve in the next couple decades to come. In the past, gaming was stigmatized as being the hobby of more recalcitrant arcade goers, but progressed to become more favorable and accepted in society, according to Junichi. In the future, Junichi expresses his desire for games focused on war and murder to be toned down in lieu of more warm and happy games. In July of 2005, Junichi reflects on the release of the movie Pokémon, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. The movie starts out in earlier times with a war that is only stopped by Sir Aaron, the owner of Lucario, supposedly sacrificing himself and all his aura with an expression within the film for the fostering of understanding rather than hatred and war. It's a good movie, and alas with the original English voice acting cast. In August of 2006, he makes even more references to peace, desiring to obtain it via Matsuri and through the production of Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl. He states his desire in making these games to create an ideal world where all countries can be at peace and shake hands with each other. He expounds on this idea in later writings, showcasing his excitement for the Global Trade Station, or GTS, being introduced in these titles. Another post made the same month details Junichi's journey to New York City and his reflection on the events of 9/11. In August of 2007, Junichi gives some unique insights as to why Tetris was an appealing game as opposed to a slow, boring one. And then a few days later, it's back to Hiroshima. Reflecting on the devastating after effects that occurred due to the atomic bomb, he then wonders for what reason these weapons need to exist in the future. I'm not going to get into a debate here on the ethicality of what happened leading up to and what justified to President Truman the use of Little Boy and Fat Man, but certainly Junichi makes a good point on mature and peaceful diplomatic relations being a good first step. Anyway, 2 days later, back to Piplup! It is peculiar to keep having all these raw, real-world history bombs, maybe a bad choice of words, sprinkled in with all these posts made about a children's media franchise. But believe me when I say, Junichi Masuda rarely makes a mistake. And he's definitely going somewhere with all this. We get some more posts in 2009 of Junichi hyping up the first ever Pokemon World Championship, or VGC, that took place in Hawaii the same year. Something that definitely has brought the world together since, as Junichi foresaw. At this point, you have probably gotten the point of the video. You know, Junichi, I'm starting to get some mixed signals here. In 2013, Junichi celebrates the international simultaneous release of X and Y. He believes it's a miracle that we're all here together in this life, and that we should celebrate the common points we do share, rather than the differences. In conclusion, Junichi is a very special and wholesome soul who, through his work with the Pokemon game franchise, aimed to create a more united, better, and peaceful world. And undoubtedly, this has been achieved in many ways.